Hey guys, how are you all? This is Beyond Astro K. Welcome to another video. So today I wanted to talk to you about Saturn easing out of Aquarius. And this is going to be sort of like a series type of thing, because the next one I'm going to do is Pluto in Capricorn, which will be coming up very shortly. But yeah, I wanted to bring this out before Saturn enters Pisces, because it's going to be in Pisces next week. And it's coming thick and fast. I don't know if you guys are actually feeling the themes of Saturn entering Pisces, that, you know, the shift in the mood is changing, generational changes, outer planet changes. See, I want to talk about Saturn being in Aquarius because it actually feels like one long road. It's been one road that we would definitely never forget in a hurry in our lifetime. When Saturn went into Aquarius in 2020, I can't even believe it's like 3 years ago, we went in this country in lockdown. And it was like, I think it was March the 21st, March the 20th, 21st, we went into lockdown. It was actually on my birthday, actually, yeah. So it was a very momentous shift. Obviously, with the card, obviously we can't talk about Saturn in Aquarius without speaking about the card, the star card. So I felt that there was a huge enlightening moment for all of us. The star card is about faith. It's a very spiritual card. It's a card that, in a way, is about new beginnings, but it's also enlightenment. The stars are shining bright. And yeah, when Saturn went into there on that day, we had other things that were happening with like the nodal shifts and, you know, but it was just, you know, Aquarius rules, you know, get-togethers with people, organizations, groups. With Saturn Day, it restricted it. We went on lockdown. So everyone may have had probably like conversations within themselves, were forced to go within them. Actually, we were forced to go within ourselves, have those, I don't even like saying the word uncomfortable, because something that you don't want to talk about or something you push is deemed uncomfortable. It's actually not. It's actually facts. It's actually, we had to face facts. We had to face facts about ourselves. So when it went into lockdown, you know, it actually felt like people were automatically laid off from their jobs. People were made redundant. People actually took a long time for people to get money from like government support and help. We also saw that, yeah, a lot of things, obviously we knew the world changed. We knew the world changed, but we were still in a Saturnian type of planet, you know, even though it's ruled by Uranus, because it did play big time. It played, the Uranus elements played out, and so did like the Saturn elements play out. So we had to do things for our health. We had to do things in order for our health. Even when I'm talking like the house system, like Saturn being in Aquarius in the first house, it was like there was things that we had to change within ourselves. We had to be comfortable with how the world was, how the world changed. You know, even like looking at how we took care of our physical self, our bodies, that change. The first house is to do with the physical. It's to do with the, like, our work, our family. It's to do with the self. And I felt that a lot of us looked at ourselves very different. It was like, is this really happening? We had to self-evaluate. We had to think more logically. And, you know, again, I'm picking up like, get with the picture. We definitely have to get with the picture. It took us a while to understand what was going on, because one minute you're going out, next minute you might to go to a party, next minute it's nope, no parties. And it was for a very, very long time. It was for months. It wasn't for a couple of weeks, it was for months. Although there was predictions that it will be for weeks, it was for a very long time. So we had to change course. We had to do things differently. We were forced to do things differently to survive. So Saturn being the first is all about survival. We come to the second house of Saturn in Aquarius. I'm sorry, I'm just going straight into it, guys, but I think it's definitely essential. The second house, it was obviously to do with money, okay, and it was to do with how how money, because it's a Taurus house, so it's about, in a way, personal gain, but it is about how money makes us feel, like our self-worth. And with Saturn in Aquarius being there, it was Pisces. And Pisces is a sign that's not materialistic. But with Saturn being there, I felt that people felt that they had to find a way to make money. So some of us took on different jobs. Some of us took on, some people, in one way, there was a force, this country was forced to make sure that money was handed out to people that were disadvantaged, okay, and i.e. furloughed. This country, there was going to be no furlough, but obviously looking to America, you've seen what they're doing. It was like, okay, through gritted teeth, you have to furlough these people, because there was no protection for a lot of people. And with Saturn being there, some people, if they were furloughed, they decided that they're going to take on another job just to earn money. Again, there's a lot of like artists that were laid off, like actors. So some went back to work in supermarkets, or just lived on the furlough money. But with this also brought, and we saw especially on the worldly level, that material, when you're thinking about what your life is like now during the pandemic, it's like letting go of that material instincts. But some people made a lot of money. They made millions and they made billions. And I felt that people wanted to find a way to like grow their finances. There's some people that actually was more frugal with, what, I don't need to actually spend that much. I am, me being at home, not really going out, is making me save. So you looked at money very differently. I don't feel it was actually very stingy. I felt it was just more like logical. Like, I don't actually need to buy this. I don't need to buy that. And some people were like, you know what? I can actually make a buck out of this. I can actually grow a business. I can start a business. This is going to make me feel happy. So yeah, so there's a lot of financial gain and money definitely made through like the highs up, which we actually saw. So it was definitely a mixed bag, especially with it being in Pisces. Yes, I believe people got more creative, more on that later, but Saturn being in the second is like, you could make money by the benefits of like a crisis, but on the other hand, you could actually save money. So definitely like a mixed bag. The third house to this is Aries. And with Saturn being in the third, it made people a bit more disciplined when it came to like, not even how they spoke, because there was a lot more of people were communicating a lot more on social media. There was like, you're not really afraid to say what you thought. Remember, a lot of us were lonely. A lot of us were very lonely, and social media actually saved us, to the point where if you weren't on Twitter, for instance, you got on Twitter. If you weren't on, all these social media, like TikTok blew up more. People were lonely, so okay, what can I do in order to communicate with like the masses? Again, um, yeah, so a lot of that happened. People communicated. Third house is a business house, so people made money. Remember, it's Aries. Aries is an entrepreneur with the third house, which is a Gemini house. So some people created jobs for themselves, like a new income, new stream of income, a new type of way of communicating with people. Blogging got bigger. Podcasting actually blew up as well. People made more money, built up a business on podcasting is not new. It's been around for a very, very long time. But during the pandemic, everyone got a podcast, nearly everyone, even me myself. People read more. I felt that, people were reading more, reading different books. Some people decided they wanted to learn a new language. Some people took up, definitely a lot of people took up short courses of study. People were improving their skills, whether it's through typing, learning about the internet, just lots of learning people were doing. Even like publishing grew. There was this huge push to get more ethnic minorities to bring their books out, because remember, the rise of Black Lives Matter came up. Speaking of Black Lives Matter, it's a media thing. So, George Floyd got murdered, and then yes, Black Lives Matter traveled around the world, which shook a lot of people, because usually it was just in America, but it was in Germany, it was in Greece, it was in the UK, it was all over the world. People started talking more, people started emoting more, people took to the streets. Okay. And what happened with that was that because Black Lives Matter was so powerful, so big, that other companies decided they need to include Black people, they need to include ethnic minorities because of this. Whether it was and remember, this is business. So yeah, so it was actually a great thing that people started to learn and write, and people wrote more. There was a lot of um there was some writers that came up, but they weren't, again, we're talking generational. It was for a certain generation. It wasn't like a different generation. It was for a certain generation that came up. So yes, and people spoke more with their brothers and sisters. People spoke more with their neighbors. Yes, there were clashes that happened. There was things that were in the media that people believed that weren't true. But people emoted. People built businesses. It was a very powerful time. Saturn in the fourth is Taurus. Saturn Aquarius in fourth is Taurus. And yes, again, a lot of us spent more time at home with family. It was a case of having to get to know your family more, having to get to know some of you had to get to know your kids, some of you had to get to know like your partner, because it could have been a case of like, morning, see you later, and it was a lot of that. So I feel people had to like really, there was like a sort of like a closeness, that more of a closeness that to happen. And again, people started careers in home. Things got a bit more professional. But again, with Saturn being in the fourth, there could have been some like heavy responsibilities that people had to pick up. A lot of children were homeschooled, so it was a lot more burden. Not in a rude way, but I felt a lot of parents felt like there was extra work for them to. Not only were they working from home, they also had to homeschool their kids. And some of the things that the kids are doing, it's just like, huh? It's like it's a different world. So yeah, I felt that there was some challenges along the way. So it definitely felt like a burden, extra responsibilities. Not only are you working, you're doing homeschooling, you're cooking, you're cleaning, okay? And with it being in Taurus, it was just like, okay, I'm just going to do this. And even if I do feel frustrated, I'm just going to bury it. I'm just going to just get on with it. But I'm still about making do my work, making sure I'm getting the work done. And after then taking care of the kids and taking care of like the family. Some of us may have felt that we couldn't really take care of ourselves as much. The fourth house is self-care. So we really couldn't. And even like in terms of like the home situation. it was a shambles. The rise of landlords, the rise of social housing, the rise of people's houses not being met. You know, you're paying rent, and you know you're not getting the rewards. You're not getting like your home fixed. So there was in the news, there was a 2-year-old baby that died because the house was it was moldy. And now we got like an act that is saying that landlords, they must do something, you know, when this situation happens. You know, can you imagine, it took a 2-year-old baby for this to happen? So we saw that lack of care in social housing towards tenants that are paying rents. You know, we saw landlords complaining that tenants are decorating their houses. And you know, why are they doing that? Well, it's their house. Yes, they're paying rent, but it's their house. There's a lot of lack of care, which was really extremely sad. Um, Obviously, we're going to see something different when Saturn's in Pisces. But yeah, there was a lack of care with that. And yeah, a lot of it was sad to see. Some people came into money during Saturn Aquarius and they rented out their house, or they decided to move more closer to their parents, or they wanted to move closer within a community. The good side of that was, you know, sharing vegetables, sharing, you know, could be gossip or sharing ideas with neighbors. Saturn in the fifth house is Gemini. So yes, especially I refer to the pandemic a lot because this was like one of the major themes that happened. So the fifth house Gemini, this brought you know, if you maintained your relationship during the pandemic, you know, I think it's beautiful, it's great. If you didn't, obviously it wasn't supposed to be, but I felt some people actually came into their own, like, okay, I'm not with this person anymore. I'm going to start dating. I'm going to really start finding myself. During the pandemic as well, with this fifth house, it was the rise of apps, like dating apps got bigger. People made a lot of money with more dating apps. You know, it could have, you know, some people dated people that were from different ethnicities, cultures. You learn a lot from them. Some of you probably did double dating. Yeah. Remember, it was a very lonely time. But on the whole, it was great to be more creative. Again, like I said before, I felt people started to very much be more creative. Like they started learning more, drawing more, writing more. Again, blogging, podcasting, all of that rose bigger. Books as well. Again, not so much. Yeah, there's a lot of books that came out. And you know, even in terms of like children, again, there was a lot of responsibilities because there's homeschooling. Some children may have acted out. Some children may have been more mouthy, emoting what they're feeling because of how the world is, how the structure is. Some children may have also felt very restricted, that they couldn't have fun with their friends, or you know, they just always just constantly doing work, they can't really have fun. So yeah, so like romantics, on a romantic, you know, I felt that, you know, fifth house is not about stability, it's more like dating. So some of you may have decided you want to go for someone that is very different to you, opposite to you. They may have been more older. Remember, Saturn is the elders. So yeah, but I felt that, especially in terms of creativity as well, and this is about speculative, like, you know, how you invest. I feel some people are a bit more cautious of what they invested in because, you know, if you go too over the top, you could lose. Some people, some of you may have also have felt that, because the fifth house is to do fertility, and we're hearing a lot more about that. You know, people are, you know, some people want to grow their family, and it's, you know, and I felt a lot of that definitely came up. But obviously things are changing, which is great. But yeah, again, I felt some, you know, there was like this, there could have been some difficulties with children, but also there was restrictions placed on them, the restriction placed on creativity. If you were very creative during this time, very, very much took it seriously. May have been small consistency, but you took it very, very seriously. Saturn in the 6th is Cancer. And what this brought, the rise of working from home. We really and truly had no choice. I felt that people worked more harder. There may have been more stress, emotional, physical, mental stress as well. But you know, it was things were taken much more seriously. And there's a lot of responsibilities put in place on people. Some of you may have also changed jobs because you just thought, you know what, I don't want this anymore. This is not the type of job that I want. So, you know, if you retrained, like if you did the whole, like started up a new course, took on a new course, or definitely started a new job, your career definitely could have changed into something a bit more sustainable. It could be to do with like the body, like working in with food, dietary, anything to do with mechanics, or you know, something to do, because the 6th house is Virgo house. Maybe something to do with the hands, but definitely to do with the mind. And Saturn being there, it made people more serious, made people more strict. Like the routines were more strict. But yeah, big realization on wanting to be at your job and not wanting to be there anymore. When you're at home a lot, especially with Cancer ruling the 6th for this, it gives you a lot of time to think about the past, how you've been treated, how your colleagues have been treating you, and how you want to be treated. This is to do with the mental health as well. So of course, people's mental health in a way suffered, because you know who's used to being restricted at home. Emotional stuff, I believe, came up. That's why the mental health was on the rise. People may have eaten more, you know, because I gained weight during the pandemic. So there was a lot more eating more. Some people decided, I want to get really healthy, take care of my health. Some people, this was a time that people were running more. People started to run more because, you know, you just want to get out. There was walking, a lot more walking. We were allowed an hour a day outside. So there's a lot more walking, a lot more taking up exercise more seriously, taking care of what you're eating or overeating. It really did zig and zag. But a lot of it was emotional. You know, even now people are still working from home, and I feel, you know, it's about being comfortable at home. It's like being more closer to home. Was there a lot of caring when it came to it? Not really, no. It appeared, but there wasn't as much caring. A lot of it was still, we're still working. We're still making the money. We're still stressed. We're still tending to our duties. But on the other hand, we're taking care of ourselves through self-care, meditation as well. You know, people started to meditate more. People started to cook more. Let's not forget the cooking aspect. Cooking food from scratch. It could have been cooking like what your parents used to cook you. So it was also, you know, there was some negatives, but there was also some good positives to this, especially if we're keeping ourselves a bit more healthy during Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn in Aquarius in the 7th is Leo. Relationships definitely changed. There was a huge power shift, a huge shift in terms of, you know, how you thought about relationships, independence. Um, Relationships probably definitely changed with what we thought about when it came to like marriage, business, partnerships. There was, if you managed to sign like contracts with a partnership, it tended to definitely go well. But also, um, yeah, I felt that some people looked at it very differently now, very, very differently. There may have been definitely some commitments as well, but commitments in a different way. And remember, when we talk about Saturn, we have to always speak up responsibility. This is about responsibility, justice as well. And, you know, putting the work in into maintaining it. Some of you may have been interested in law and order. Okay. So, you know, we saw that we saw like the rise of that. There were certain things that were put in place in terms of because even like speaking of the media, there was things that were put out which wasn't true. So people took to this, people took to social media and again put things in place. But yeah, I felt that if relationships did break down, it was obviously due with that there could have been more criticism. There could have been a bit more, things could have been a bit more judgmental. So you thought, you know what, I'm better off out of this. And Saturn actually does well in the 7th house. It's actually a Libra house. So, there could definitely been some problems. There could have been some of us not really relating well with people. This open house enemies house. Yeah, and also people building partnerships, business organizations, and yeah, it actually felt quite good in a way about law and order. When it came to the 8th house, which is Virgo, the 8th house is about, other people's money, joint finances. So there's a lot more of that happening. Joining your finances with your partner. Maybe a lot of like breakdowns, communications, money owed to you. So government was giving out more money. Like in this country, we have universal credit. So people were receiving a £20 uplift with that. But it still felt stingy. So there's still the element of greed that was going on. You can get only this certain amount, just very little amount, because Virgo is not a sign that is a sign that's very open with money. So yes, and yes, we obviously with the pandemic we saw a lot of people. There's a lot of deaths as well. So there may have been lots of discussions about the, the death and rebirth. People were definitely transformed. Finances transform people big time. There was also, what was it? There's also, sorting out inheritances, inheritance tax. Tax was massive here. And again, this is about money and resources. Again, we did see, because I was even think of the 6th house and this house as well, like, people were working for companies and that, but they weren't getting their due. Hence the reason why we are seeing the rise of, the rise of unions, because there seemed to be a cut. The reason why unions have risen in this country is because we see a cut of people's pensions, there was more to do with like loans, just loan, but there was people were working and they're getting their pensions, maternities were getting cut as well. Remember, it's Virgo. It's not about giving freely, it's about I'll give, but this is what's going to be happening. So there was a lot of losses along the way. And what this also brought was more time that we had to really face like deeper leanings within ourselves. There was also this rise of, again, mental health. So people were going to therapy. They're trying to find themselves through therapy, through occult work, tarot, astrology. There was a big rise of that as well. But yeah, and even like if it was anything to do with like money, like legal things to do with money, it felt like a long, hard-winded road. If you were owed money, it took a long time to come through. They felt more like a reluctance for people to get paid what they due because of stinginess. So yes, it was quite a harsh time with Saturn being in the 8th. Saturn Aquarius in the 9th is Libra, and Libra actually does very well in the 9th. We saw laws and that being put in place, and it was the laws were put into place for people were higher up. not really for, you know, the underprivileged. But yeah, because the ninth house to do with like law and order. It's a Sagittarius house. So it felt very, for me, it actually felt more traditional. It's like we was going back. We weren't going forward, we were going back. But thank God for social media. Anything that was put out there, people will call it out, and there was a lot of backtracking going on. Like, oh, we didn't mean like this, we didn't mean it like that. So they reversed the law, they changed things to do with the law. And yeah, a lot of backtracking going on. And I felt that again, people built businesses based on publishing books, and some people went, you know, a lot of going back to uni, going back to college, going back to learning, going back to like enhance yourself, going back to enhance your career. I did see, and even me myself started to get more religious. uh, Not strictly religious, but like, you know, lots of reading Bibles, praying. People got more spiritual. It's a time that we had to find a spiritual outlet because the Welsh was so harsh with Saturn in Aquarius. And yeah, but they remember, Saturn's very traditional. So it's like going back to the drawing board, going back to what you used to do in the past. So if you were going back to college, or you were going back to get your O levels and the A levels, this was something you probably thought that you needed, because you know you felt you needed it, like you've missed out. So you may have been in two minds about it, but once you made that decision, it was go time. And some of it was definitely to do status, like I'm going to learn this because I need to know my rights in order to get like this job and that job. So yeah, I felt it was quite neutral, but there was things that definitely need to be called out, because this was about justice. This was also about things being equal and things being fair. The ninth house is about race and religion. So racism rose big time, especially with like the Black Lives Matter. You know, the LGBTQ community as well. They rose up. They got more rights. Uh, Black people, Asian people, the rights are still, we're still fighting for it. But you know, the rights are still there. But yeah, there was a lot of that going on as well. Saturn in the 10th with Scorpio. So this is very powerful because this is the Saturn house. So people rose up. People, again, made money. People built businesses. Whether it was through good means or not is another story. But there was the rise of the elite happened. The rise of people that wanted to, people that were like disadvantaged, should I say. They still were like, it felt like they were very stuck at the bottom. There was no time for people that didn't, you know, like if you weren't well connected. But there was a rise of that because a lot of people got rich during the pandemic. But generally, you know, we did see more of people in positions of power. They were at the forefront, and some of the things they were doing were quite dodgy, and it was called out. And now we're starting to see the um the laws of their ways, because Saturn is the law of karma. So good or bad, if you did good, you know, you'll get your what you need, and if you didn't do good, you still get what you need. So powerful. It was a very ambitious time to succeed. You know, if you were like, it depends on your mindset. If your mindset was very high, it's like, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to sit here and wallow. I'm going to be attaining something. And with Scorpio ruling that house, it was very passionate, very driven, very obsessive. There was obsessive need to be powerful, guys. It was obsessive need to do things for the self. No time for compromise. No time for, you know, if you felt like you know, like you had like it's like a reversal of fortune. You could like reverse your fortune. You could do something that could elevate your status. And some people, again, they really benefited, but some people they lost out. Some people, you know, if there was some promotions that happened and demotions. All in all, with Saturn being in the 10th, with Scorpio being there, when I say demotions, I felt like if you're doing something dodgy, you know, so a lot of people, especially in the media, like the government, a lot of people got sacked, a lot of people rose up, a lot of people got suspended, and it was a lot of drama. There was a lot of lies as well, a lot of backpedaling. Because the 10th house is also to do with disgrace. So, you know, in this country, we had 3 prime ministers in less than a year. Okay, especially last year, we had a lot of prime ministers, but there was like an excitement to have power, just for power's sake. And when you get it, it's just like you're crashing the economy type of thing. So yes, so there was that huge shift. I'm sure you guys all felt it too. Saturn in the 11th is Sagittarius. So again, we made, you know, it's a time of making new friends, probably very influential friends. It's like about who you know, who knows who. A lot of that shift was happening. A lot of people made friends online. A lot of people formed groups. A lot of people, because you know, on Twitter they have the spaces, so that grew. And I've joined some spaces as well, especially creative spaces, and it was from different creeds, different, especially Sagittarius being different creeds, different backgrounds, people from far away. So that was actually a brilliant thing, and you know, people learn a lot more about each other. So yeah, and if you and you know, some of you may have been drawn to, like, I'm gonna form a group, and yes, it definitely could have been for gain, definitely could have been for powerful gains. The 11th house is to do with gains, so people, you know, made a group to gain new finances. Some of the groups may have been like normal, but some of the groups may have been very influential. They may have been very powerful. This is about ambition too. And some of you also may have got really big recognition in it, because the 11th house is also like it's Aquarius house, a manifestation house. And the fact that Sagittarius is there, everything flew. Like, I felt that yes, there definitely could have been some clashes along the way, because this is the rise of cancel culture. So if you didn't agree with what I was about, I'm preaching and this is what you should be about. If you're not agreeing, then you can go. So it felt like there was some bullying elements along the way too. So yes, so lots of groups, lots of organizations, lots of gains that people made, but essentially you did learn. Essentially did learn. And some of these, they could have, some of you also could have met people from your past as well. They could have, it definitely could have been when Saturn was in Aquarius 30 years ago. So you may have met up with people from your past, from 30 years ago. And yeah, was it, I don't know, you guys can tell me, would the groups that you made, associations, was it right? Was it great? Was it not so great? But yeah, this was about structuring friendships as well. But you know, if you gain something from it, especially financial, material, even better for some. But again, it was a great time to be making friends from different cultures and creeds. And we come to the last house with Saturn being in the 12th, with Capricorn being there. So it actually felt like, you know, I have to come back to the pandemic with this, guys, that there was things that, you know, if I felt that some people definitely built things behind the scenes, like started up businesses, started up, or were thinking of doing it. The fears, like hidden subconscious fears, definitely came up. Meeting up with secret groups, doing certain work from behind the scenes. It could have been charitable, like, you know, you really look at yourself and thinking, I actually want to invest in this, I want to be a bit more charitable. Again, the 12th house is to do with the mental health, the spiritual health, the emotional health. So some people may have been decided that, life is just too much, and, going into hospitals. There was a rise of people going to hospitals because people's bodies were not the same. So, wanting to heal the self. And the 12th house also rules confinement in mental institute. So that could have been a theme too. Even when I'm talking about this, I feel very, very sensitive. We did see like the rise and lots of talk about prisons and shirens and detention centers. But, and also the 12th house is about secret enemies. So some people may have started to see who is their people, who is working against them and who is working with them. But psychologically, I felt it played big. That's one of the reasons why mental health, and it's still between the 12th and the 6th house, with Capricorn being the 12th, Cancer's being in the 6th, it played big. And even though there's a lot of talk and speaking about it, what is actually being done? Because Capricorn being in the 12th is not easy. It's not an easy time that you're going to be trying to heal yourself. It takes a lot. So there might have definitely been some intervention. But on the other hand, because Capricorn's there, it's like I'm going to try and, work hard. A lot of us were working hard behind the scenes in order to, benefit ourselves and also heal ourselves. It may have played hard on us psychologically too. And if you were doing the work, you were healing. But if you weren't doing the work, things just got worse. There may have been this thing of not concentrating on it. It's just like just working, and until it just gets too much. Hence the reason why, especially in this country, which is a Capricorn country, mental health is big. So yes, so that was like my take on Saturn in Capricorn through the houses, Saturn in Aquarius through the houses. It wasn't very easy. It wasn't very easy. I feel that we're going to look at this Saturn in Aquarius in a way that we're never going to look at it again. I mean, you could blame the government, you could blame yourself, you could blame a multitude of things. We also have to remember we had the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. The first time of this decade, the last one was in 1982. And it was in Libra. Then it went back into Earth. And this is now a combination of, this is going to be like the 250-year era. Next one's in Libra, then it's in Gemini, and so on, all in air. So it's no wonder why we all felt we're in like new world order. Things have changed in this country. Like we're changing, like we've got Harry and Meghan who have left. The monarchy is changing as well. The Queen passed away last year. So, and also Aquarius rules young people. So the youngsters are definitely coming up. And, Saturn is about the elders. So the elders want to keep the old way. But Saturn, like especially when we've got Pluto going to Aquarius, like no siree. We are moving into this new direction. So I think for all of us, again, we're going to look at this time as not a very easy time. Parts were quite good, but parts were very challenging. But it did make us think about easing ourselves into a new world and knowing that everything is definitely moving online. All the things that we love and like, shops that we go to, a lot of it's moving online, and we're going to get a dose and taste of that when Pluto enters Aquarius. I mean, could you imagine, guys, if Pluto was in Aquarius now with Saturn being there? Whew, can you imagine? So yeah. So again, that was my take on Saturn in Aquarius. It's quite a heavy one, but I am glad that we're starting to see, because now that Saturn in Aquarius is easing out of Aquarius. It's 29 degrees. I'm glad that we're starting to see the forming of unions, especially people that are in their Saturn returning Aquarius. They're very different now. Very, very different. They're making their mark. And that's what Saturn Aquarius wants you to do. It wants to get people together. It wants you to be loyal to friendships and loyal to a cause. And also, regardless of what's happened, we are going to be pushing through, because when it goes into Pisces, that's when we're going to see like the work. So guys, that was my take again. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let me know what you think about this video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I will speak to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.